I'm gonna bring in Mo, and I'm gonna bring in Ashish if I say your names right. Guys, what's up, man? How's it going? How you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Oh,
Hey, I'm good. Good to meet you.
I am good because I am sitting at 2:00 in the afternoon. I don't know about anybody else,
Nice.
but yeah, I know. I'm wide
Nice.
awake. So how do we want to do this? Ashish, do you want to guys introduce yourself real quick, and then we'll just figure it out how we want to strategize this presentation. So tell us about yourself, both you guys.
Sure. So hey everyone, my name is Ashish. I'm currently a tech lead at AWS Amplify. I used to work on the Amplify JS team first on web and React Native, and most recently we added support for the Flutter library, and now I lead efforts on that team as well. So that's some background about me, and today we're going to be talking about how to seamlessly build full stack Flutter applications with AWS Amplify. And we have with me Mo as well, who's a solution architect on Amplify. Mo, you want to go ahead?
Yeah,
Introduce yourself?
hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Mo. I'm a solution architect on the Amplify team. One of my favorite things to do outside work is exploring new technologies, and I blog about that on Day3. So you can follow me on Twitter, Day3, where I started blogging about Flutter recently. I'm a learner, learning Flutter. I believe learn by doing. So I build apps to explore the technology. And today I will be sharing with you a sample app built using Flutter and Amplify.
Thanks, guys. So how do we want to do this? Mo and you and I want to go, and then we'll let Ashish you can go ahead and present, and then Ashish, you want to bring him in later, right? Or just tell me
Sure.
when. So
yeah, I'll cue you in when to bring in Mo.
Yeah. Okay, Mo, you and I are leaving. I'm sorry.
Yes,
And then,
no problem.
I'm gonna bring in slides.
We'll be here.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun, right? The control here. So okay, we're gonna go away, and then
Cool. So I'm guessing everyone can see my screen. So hey everyone, we're going to be talking about AWS Amplify and Flutter, and how to seamlessly build full stack Flutter apps powered by AWS. So let me first give you all an introduction to what Amplify is. So Amplify is a set of tools and services that enables mobile and front-end developers to build applications seamlessly, securely, and in a scalable way, powered by AWS. It's one of our quickest and easiest ways to get started with AWS when building full stack applications, and consists of three main components. So there's the libraries and the UI components, which you use to integrate your app with the AWS backends that are created and managed by the CLI and admin UI. And we also have the Amplify console, which is an AWS service that helps you host your full stack web applications, and has integrations with Git workflows and built-in CI/CD as well. So as you can see, AWS Amplify kind of provides you with tools to accelerate and simplify the overall app development lifecycle. So when creating and configuring your backend, we'll show you today how you can do that both with the CLI and the admin UI, and then use these different categories that the libraries provide, like for use cases like authentication, real-time data, storage, and how to integrate your application very simply with decorative use case based APIs. And then we'll also show you how to use the admin UI, which is like a very intuitive kind of user interface that helps you model your data and manage your app content, like your users and groups, and the data that you'll be creating with data stored today. So that's an overview of Amplify, and we're going to get a little deeper into it in a bit. Let me go ahead and tell you what all exactly Amplify supports today. So Amplify started out supporting mostly JavaScript, web, and React Native. And so apart from cross-platform development through React Native, Ionic, we also support all popular web frameworks like React, Angular, Vue, and so on. After that, we launched support for iOS and Android native libraries. And then decide to like leverage the iOS Android libraries to support Flutter for our customers using plugins. So let me go ahead and tell you like how we, it's just some background about Amplify Flutter itself. So at AWS and Amazon, we believe we have an approach to working backwards when building our products, and we use customer data, feedback, and feature requests to help guide um, all the products that we deliver at AWS. So just starting out at 2018, this is like our Amplify JS repo at the time. So just a quick note, we have all our libraries and CLI, etc., are open source, so you can kind of see the features and stuff that we're developing, file issues, and take a look at RFCs and so on. So one of the most upvoted feature requests at the time was support for Flutter, and you can see like this is sometime in 2018. And we take like customer requests very seriously, so we decide like we'll track this as a feature request, and kind of understand more about Flutter development and how we can best support our Flutter customers. So just looking at the trends, we saw like Flutter was growing rapidly, its adoption, and just looking at the rate of kind of growth on GitHub, like it was one of the fastest growing open source repositories at the time. And we started like doing some other research as well, like Stack Overflow trends indicated like Flutter was surpassing React Native, which we did support at the time. And we were seriously considering like how can we kind of provide support and amplify for Flutter developers as well. Some more metrics we looked at were like just like I mentioned before, just the rate of growth of Flutter was, I think it was the fastest growing library. This is sometime around June. So and as of today, like from a number of analysts like and surveys and stuff like JetBrains and Slash Data, it seems like Flutter is now the dominant cross-platform framework for development in 2021. So clearly we wanted to make sure that we can meet developers where they are and provide support for Flutter. So we kind of just the way we work open source, we let customers know that we are like currently investigating an approach to support Flutter and actively working on creating a library for them to integrate. So I'll give some more details about how we designed this library and built it in a way that could really enable us to both develop and support our customers quickly, and also in a extensible and performant way. So the approach we took for the Amplify Flutter library was to use the Flutter plugins. So basically, the library is designed as a collection of plugin packages for different categories. Categories are basically, a collection of use cases. For example, authentication, API data, all of that. So basically, the use case centric APIs would be integrated in your Flutter app, and that was all written in Dart and would communicate with the platform specific implementation using the platform channels. We use method channels for our API calls to send messages over to the native side and get results back. So for things like signing up, sign in users, all of those things are built with method channels, and we kind of serialize the data and send it across to the native side, where our plugin platform code is basically then calling into the Amplify native libraries, and allows us to kind of leverage that to achieve all the use cases and support all the APIs and functionality that we have in Amplify across the board, and bring that over to developers using like interfaces in Dart, so that they can integrate in their Flutter apps. And we use event channels as well, which is mostly used for things like subscriptions, hub events, and so on. Another interesting thing to note is like the library is designed with a pluggable architecture in mind. So it involves writing plugin interfaces in Dart for each category, and then the plugin packages implement that interface. Currently, all the plugins use Amplify iOS and Android under the hood, so they use the existing providers and native code for mobile, but this kind of design allows us to keep things extensible and allow us to support additional platforms in the future by implementing, say, a Dart only plugin, or even you could think of us supporting categories like storage with multiple service providers. Like you could have we have S3 right now, we could do Dynamo in the future, things like that. So that's kind of an overview of how we built the Flutter library. We also did some benchmarking on performance and found that the plugins were pretty great in terms of very low latency and stuff, and provide really good performance, and also, of course, accelerate our ability to deliver this functionality to customers, since we could leverage a lot that was built underneath the hood in Amplify iOS and Android. And now I'll just give you an idea about what exactly is this category-based programming model and what all categories Amplify Flutter supports today. So we have auth, which is basically provides an interface for authenticating your users, and provides like flows for sign up, sign in, MFA, things like that. It also provides the necessary authorization for other Amplify categories, for example, data store, storage, etc. By default, the provider we use is Amazon Cognito, which I think some folks here would be familiar with. And some other categories we have right now is like storage, which is basically an interface for managing user content in like public, protected, or private storage buckets. And for storage, we use the S3 service by default, and enables use cases like upload, download, deleting objects, things like that. We also have data store. Data store is like extremely powerful and provides an object-oriented programming model that makes it very simple to kind of work with distributed cross-user data, and also supports offline flows, and makes it very simple to kind of work with distributed data by kind of allowing you to think of it just as working with local only data. So what we do is we provide users with models, which is based on a GraphQL schema and native to the platform or language you're working in, which in this case is Dart. And we kind of code generate those models based on the GraphQL schema that you decide to have as a user. And we handle all the complex and also kind of undifferentiated use cases, like handling real-time sync, like conflict resolution, offline to online, all of those kind of cases. And we use the AppSync service here. So AppSync is like a real-time GraphQL service that we have, and by default it uses DynamoDB as the data source, but you can configure different data sources as well, like Lambda, or even if you have your own kind of backend, you can use like you can use HTTP to kind of use your own service. That's slightly more advanced, but it is definitely possible. We also have like API as a category for REST and GraphQL use cases, and analytics, which allows you to track your user sessions and record events, etc. So today we're going to be building an application that Mo will be going over, and kind of talk about these different categories and use cases. It'll cover things like data store, auth, storage, and analytics. And you can kind of see how it's very simple to both create and configure your backend, and then integrate with the library using the APIs, and then kind of go into the admin UI to even manage your user data and see updates and things like that.
Thanks, Ashish. So today we are going to build a sample to-do app where the user can add, update a to-do item, and upload a profile photo for your app. You can use it in the home screen. And we are going to use pinpoints for analytics to track the events. As you can see from this diagram, we have multiple layers in the app. We will have a UI layer for the user to interact with. It will display screens. We have like a couple of screens like the home homepage where we will list the list of to-do items. We will have the login screens, and those screens will have widgets like we are having like an email login widget, to-do item widget, and more. The business logic, we will have a set of controllers. This business logic will do like, you know, the business coding there, like the validation and getting the interaction from the UI layer, translate that into like a sign in or sign out, or you know, create the to-do items, etc. This will happen through a services layer, which will be a bridge that between our app logic and the Amplify backend. So if we go to the Amplify backend, the next slide. Next slide, please. So as you can see here, we are going to use 4 categories. We will have the auth category that Ashish explained. This will use Amazon Cognito and the AWS IAM to authenticate the user. We can have multiple authentication provider. We can have email login, or we can have a social login, like sign in with Apple, Google, and Facebook and Amazon. Once the user is authenticated, then you'll be able to use the other categories, the rest of the categories here. We'll have a storage, and we will use S3, where the user, as I said, you can upload a profile picture. We will store that in S3. We will use the methods to upload and then get a URL for that and use that in our app. The analytics category, we will use a service called Amazon Pinpoint. This is where we'll track the user interaction and the app events. The data category, this is the interesting one. This is where we will manage the to-do items and store the user details and the to-do items details. We are going to use a data store service that Ashish explained, and it is on-device persistent storage engine. This automatically will synchronize the data between your app, locally in your app, and the cloud using the App Sync service. Think about the App Sync as application data service with real-time and offline features implemented through GraphQL schema, and we will be using DynamoDB for the data. Let me now share my screen, and we can start doing some code. So probably the easiest way to start building Amplify application, is to go to our admin UI sandbox. This is a portal here where you don't need to sign in to AWS, but it will give you like the ability to start building, you know, your backend, or start preparing for your backend. So we'll go with get started here. We'll start by data modeling. So I will choose data, and we're going to create a blank schema. Okay, and in my schema, I'm going to have basically two models. I will start with a to-do, okay, which will have ID, and then let's have a name, string. Let's have a couple of dates field. So created at, we can use AWS date and time. And if you update that, let's capture that. So we'll have update at, we'll use another date time field. Let's have a flag when the to-do is complete or done. We have a Boolean flag. Yeah. And that's it. That's the to-do item. Now, we are going to have multiple tables here. We will have another table for users. So those to-do items will be per user, based on the user. So we will capture maybe the username. Let's capture the email. Remember, we said we are going to upload a profile picture into the storage, which uses 3. So for that, we will have a key. So let's say it's image key, which will be a string, and we'll have image URL. So that's the URL that the S3 will generate for us once you upload the data. As part of the registration, when you register using your email, Amazon or AWS will send you a verification code. So you need to make sure to verify the user using this code. So let's have a flag here to make sure that this user is verified. You know how to type. Let's have date also when we created this user. So at time. Okay. So we have those two models, and let's configure the relationship. So we said it is for one-to-many between users and to-do. So click here, you select what model. We only have two models. So this is the to-do, and we have one users to many to-dos. Okay. I'm going to save that. And you can see here, we have a field. It's the relationship source, and it's based on the user ID. Okay, so this is a nice tool here. You can design your data modeling, graphically here for the people who like to be visual, but you can also do the same from the CLI, which we'll talk about in a minute. Next step, it will ask you what you are building. We're doing a cross-platform, and we're going to do Flutter, but you can generate. And this, as she said, the models will be generated based on the language. So this here, you determine what you are building, what framework you are using, or what language you are using. And based on that, the models will be generated. Next, you need to create a new app. There's here a suggest steps to use like Android Studio. I'll be using VS Code, but you can find links here about pre-request, like installing the Flutter SDK, obviously, and how to set up your Android Studio. And then next step, it will give you a command that you can use on your project folder to pull this data model. So we're going to use this command in a second here. But before using this command, let's talk about the rest of the steps. It will give you a code snippets and details how to configure and install Amplify library into your application. Very detailed steps that you can copy and paste those and add it to your project folder, to the pub files. You need to do configuration for iOS and Android, as you can see, how you can initialize Amplify in your main page. Very convenient with the copy and paste that we all like. And then next step, another very useful tips here about the different CRUD functionalities that you can use in the data models. So you can switch to the to-do app. You can have the update, the delete, and query. You can have the same thing for the users. So let's switch to the VS Code. I already created a sample app, this empty skeleton app here. Remember the code or the command I copied here from step 3. I'm going to run this here. Okay, so it's going to pull from the sandbox. It will pull the data model details, and it will add the configuration files for Amplify and for the definitions we did for the schema. We don't have, note that we don't have anything yet on the cloud. This is all local on your machine. As a result of running this command, we get those fields, the models for those to-do items, and we get a nice folder here called Amplify, which include the configuration. And important file I want to highlight is the schema here. This is the schema that we built and we configured on the sandbox admin. You can use the steps listed on that portal to test locally. And once Once you are happy with your testing, you are happy with your models and all of that, then next step is you want to start building your backend. So the first step for building the backend is you need to initiate Amplify. Okay, so here we're going to use the CLI. And I'm going to use this command, amplify it. Okay, and let me get this bigger. So what this command will be doing is this command will start provisioning the resources of the backend. Okay, it will ask you for for those configuration steps. So let's call this dev environment. We're using Visual Studio Code. By the way, Amplify support multiple environments. You can have multi environments in your app, which give you like a good integration, CI/CD integration, and you can have all that configured in a JSON file. So we said Visual Studio Code. It will ask you to provision those. We have on our docs how to configure the AWS profile in your machine. We are going to use that. Call it default. Those things might be a little bit different in your site. And now the CLI will start initializing the project in the cloud, which means it will start provisioning those backend, creating and going through all those roles and authentications and all of that Ashish described in his presentation. This will take a few minutes. You can see from the terminal here all the steps and all the details being created. The CLI is an initial part of the project. You will always use it for multiple things, and we'll use it now. So this is done. You can see here most of the updates happening on this folder. You can see the configuration and the settings we have, and this the CLI where we'll have like feature flags and things like that. For all those details, for detailed explanation, you can find that in our docs. This is the environment I told you about. In this JSON file, you can add another environment, and the CLI will allow you to do that. Okay, so we have the CLI provision. Remember when we said like you need to have authentication to access the rest of the categories. So let's start by adding the auth category. Again, I'm going to use the amplify add auth command. And this will check what configuration you want. We have out of the box default configurations. We have a social provider. This is where you need to set up your Google, sign in with Google or Apple or sign in with Amazon, etc. So it will ask you for details about that side of the configuration. You can have a manual configuration for more advanced cases, or you can ask to learn more for more explanation. For today, let's go through the default configuration. We'll go with email here, and let's make it simple. So I'm done. We'll choose that, and we will move to the next step. So we have the auth now configured. Remember, we said we have multiple categories. So let's go to the next one. And for next one, I will go with storage. So the storage here, so I'll go with contents, but you can have the NoSQL database. There's some use cases there explained in our docs. It'll ask you for a friendly name. You can go with the default, or you just let's change this one, for example. So let's use Flutter Summit demo. And we will have auth and guest users. For authenticated users, will you go with create, read, and delete, so full access basically. And for the guest users, we'll go with read. There's an option to add a Lambda trigger, but in this case, we're not going to do that, but I encourage you to check our docs for those use cases. And now it will start again, continue with the provisioning and updating the Amplify. All those, the outcome of those commands you can see the details here in this folder. Okay, so far we did the provisioning, we did the auth, we did the storage. Let's do the analytics. Yeah. We'll go for pinpoint. Let's have a resource name, make it simple, just give the default one. And add the command again, we'll update that important folder and do all those details. So the next step would be, so remember again, all of those is a provisioning available in your local machine. The next logical step is that you will use the Amplify push to get those into your cloud, into the back end, and to start building all those resources to you. And that's highlighted here in some next steps. Now, I already did this. So let me switch to the actual app that I prepared. This is the app with the diagram I talked about. I already ran through all those commands and I uploaded that and pushed those into the admin, which will give you something like this. Okay, this is the admin UI. This is not the sandbox. This is the one that you will get after you provision your cloud configuration. You will get this interface here, and you can see the data and the authentication and all those details available. But before we go deep into this, let me run the app for you and do like a quick demo of the use cases. So start this, and I have here the iOS emulator. Now, remember in this case, I have, all that diagram that we talked about is implemented. I have the controllers, I have the YAML file set up, and I added the latest Amplify libraries from both the dev. I have the services layer and the UI. And now we are putting all of this and we're building using Xcode builds here to get that running on the iPhone. Okay. So in the background, in the code, first thing I'll do is I check if the user is signed in or not. If the user is not signed in, which I will show you like sample code how to do that. If the user is not signed in, I display this sign-in screen. It includes multiple widgets. For example, I am using a widget for the buttons for each one to show the logo of the provider and the title for each one of them. Remember, I said that we support social login. Today, we support Google, Facebook, Apple, and sign in with Amazon. But we are going to use here the default option, which you will get when you start any project, which will be sign in with email. I created the widget for basically this box that you can use to sign in or to register. So let's register a new user. Okay, I'm using like email. Let's use this one, email account, and I'll create a password. You can manage all the rules around the format of the password or any authentication rules that you'll manage that on AWS. So I will click here, create account. So remember the verification steps that we talked about. Now, the authentication will send auth confirmation code, which I received in my email. And I'm going to put this here. Okay, so we are signed in. I use this email. Remember this email, we'll talk about it a little bit. Now the user is authenticated and the user is verified. So this will complete the registration. Let's start with uploading an image for your profile. So I will use just a sample image. I should download like a profile picture, but I didn't get a chance to do that. So this is in the background. It is uploading to the S3 using the storage category. We have a method, upload, where we put like a key. We try a key, and you can pass like a metadata. And then we use a get URL method from the storage, which will show you some of the code there. And we display that in a widget here. Next step, let's create a couple of to-do items. Like, for example, let's say our service. One of my favorite to-do items is eat cookies. Something essential, for example, that I recommend that you don't forget to do that is feed the kids. Let's switch gears to the admin UI here. Okay. So if you go here to the users, you can see that this is the user we created. Okay, remember, like in the app here, I'm displaying here, it's +4, just for simplicity. And you can see I had multiple users before, went through the same route, and they got confirmed. In the contents, there's something nice about the admin is, it will show you the data. So if we switch into the users first, you can see we have this user here, +4. We capture the username and the email. In this implementation, we use the username and email as the same. We use the same value. This is the key that we randomly generated in the code. We use to upload that image, and we store the URL here. And we have the flag that we talked about the verification. In the to-do items here, we have multiple to-do items, as you can see, but I want to highlight that, not that the app is only displaying the items for this user, for +4. So you can see here we have other to-do items like blog about Flutter Summit or prepare a demo app. We didn't get those in the app. We have only the items for that user. This is done because of the relationship that we identified in the modeling. Let's do some experiment. Like if we go to the car service and say like this is done. So we are going to flag this as done here. And let's see if that gets synchronized here. So it is for the car service. And it is this one here. And look, the flag switched from false to true. Let's try something else. Let's try deleting car service. Okay, so I'm going to delete that. Might be a delay, so let me refresh the page. Okay, and you don't see it. So the car service is done, and we deleted that record. So as you can see, like this is thanks to the data store service that handled that sync engine that we talked about. So you can update there, and it will get reflected immediately here using the app sync, which is responsible to make sure all those synchronization. But like in the implementation, we didn't put any effort on that functionality. So all that overhead is taken care of by the data store. We just, we were like, think about your mindset as offline first, but all of this, you get that for free. Let me show you some code. remember we said we have a service layer. Let's focus on that one because that's where we have most of the Amplify code. On a high level, I have 3 services. I have the first one, and by the way, this is just my approach in building the app. That's not something. Yeah, you can have your different approach, but I like to have a separate layers for each functionality. So I created like 3 surfaces here, and I'll start with the Amplify surface. This is the first one I use. Remember when I said when we start the app, we make sure that the Amplify is configured by adding those plugins. So we said we have auth plugin, we have the analytics pinpoint, we have the storage, and we have the data store and the API, which will responsible for that data box we shared in the slides. So we do this at the first in the main page. We call the service and we make sure the Amplify is configured. And then we check if the user is signed in. And for that, through the controllers we have here, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time, the controllers, but the controllers will call the services. And here we have the auth service. The auth service, I created multiple methods. For example, I have a signed in flag, which is going to use Amplify to check for that for the auth session and check if that user signed in or not. If we don't have a signed in user, then we will display the login page that we discussed. If we have a signed in user, you can get the current user, which will give you information like the user ID, which we used on the models to store. We also have here like a signed out method. I want to highlight this here. In the signed out, I implemented I choose to implement clearing the data store. So we call this method. Note that this will clear your local data store. It will not clear the cloud. It will clear the data on this device that you choose to sign out. We have other methods like for the registration with the email and password. And you have like the sign in. If the user already signed in, we use that different method. We save the user once you are signed in. We save the user by getting the current user, creating this model that we talked about, which is available here. We create the user and the pass those information to a service I created for the data store. So it is this service here. Simple methods. I just save the user based on that model. I get the user signed in. I get the user ID from get current user. I pass that here and I check for the data store. I use the query method here to get that user. And also we get the to-dos item for that user. Note we have a query, the data store, and we have the user ID here. Remember that user ID field is the one that we get when you configure the relationship. We have the delete, and we have the save here for the to-do item. I pass a to-do model, and I use that to delete and update or save this item. This is the method I created to update or flag that this to-do item is done. Basically, first I get the item using the query and using the ID field. And then I save that item back into the data store by creating another copy of, not another, by modifying, using the copy with to modify the element is done by passing the new value here, which most forget will be done, or you can remove that, will be true or false. This app, I'm going to share the code for this app. You'll get a link for the GitHub. You'll see all the other items. I'm not going to go through the details of that. But remember, I said like we'll have controllers, we'll have the widgets, and we have the screens. And this is the configuration file that you will get when you do the Amplify init. And once you configure the other categories, this will store all the details, and this will be used on those services. That's all from the app and the coding. So I guess now we can open for questions. See, she joined.
And I'm here too. Okay, cool. Okay, Bob, that was really awesome, Mo. That was really some great information, and I really like how you went through the code for all those examples, especially data store and the controller. Yeah, it was amazing.
Thank you.
I got some great questions for both of you. Let's see what I got here. I guess it's to both of you. Let me drop it in here. Do you think AWS Amplify will outrun Google? Oh, okay, I didn't say that. I don't know who said that, but you guys, what do you think about that? You outrun Google? What do you think?
So actually, like, we are focused on like customer obsession. We don't really focus on competitors. So we, like, even if you look at our open source repos, the thing that drives our development and roadmap for Amplify Flutter's creation itself and new features, we simply focus on customer requests and trying to improve the existing developer experience and tooling to match what customers expect, and try and give them the best experience possible. So that's really how I would answer this question, and not really focus on trying to look at the competitor side of things.
Yeah, I really like that, because it's not like you're focusing on the competition. You're focusing on the fact of customer satisfaction, and that's really what it's all about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Looks like I got one here too. What's next? What's next for Amplify? What do you guys foresee this going? What's the forecast of it? And
right. So specifically for Flutter, like, we are looking at the feature requests on our repo. So some of the things that we just did was adding support for null safety, adding support for some custom configuration in data store. What we're doing next, for example, is in data store, there's a feature called Selective Sync that kind of allows you to only sync a subset of your data using using predicates, or like basically conditionally sync a subset of your data locally.
Nice.
So that's something that's coming out shortly. And longer term, like, trying to get Amplify Flutter support for UI widgets as well. So drop in widgets for things like authentication, similar to how Mo had for his app, but like very kind of generic, that you can just drop into your application, customize the theming, the UI, and all the logic for the different auth flows is kind of already built for you. So it kind of can get your app running with authentication in just like a few minutes. So that's some of the things that we're focusing on the roadmap right now.
Yeah, that sounds great, because it's like you're focusing on one thing you said was the database and the predicate, like you said, what specific days coming out of it, and then the authentication. I think we got one more question, guys. I mean, there's probably so many here, but we got to leave soon. But does Amplify support null safety? Explain that to us.
Yes, short answer is yes. We support null safety. This is started with version 0.2.0. You can find the details on our docs, how to migrate your app. The Amplify CLI can generate Dart models with or without null safety using the Amplify code gen models command. We have a detailed migration steps in our docs. We are going to share the link to our docs. And you can find what you need to change, minimum changes. Just you need to make sure you have the right Dart version, the right SDK, and just take it from there.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And that rolls it. I think this is the last question. I'm gonna try to throw this in anyway. Hope they don't get mad at me. But that's kind of what you just said. So what is the best way to connect with the Amplify team? Because everybody's out there, they're probably tired,
Yes.
but they're like, wait, I want to get and connect with these guys. So what is the best way to do that? Yeah.
This is a great question. I like this question. So we are, as Ashish said, and as I said, we are open source SDKs. We actively maintain repo. So we are very active on GitHub. You will find a lot of comments and a lot of issues there. I will be commenting there, Ashish will be there, and the wider team will be there. So feel free to submit issues. Feel free to look into the RFCs. And we are highly encourage you to respond to our feedback. As we keep saying, we are very customer obsessed, our model. So those comments on the RFCs, those feedback is very essential for our roadmap. And another cool thing we have is we have a community managed Discord. So we have a Discord server with more than 30,000 active members. It's very busy Discord. We log there daily. We have other community members, not part of AWS, but just passion developers helping each other, talking about Amplify and Flutter and all the other libraries. So please join us. We do a weekly office hour on Discord. That's on Thursday at 12 PST, where we just go there and we listen to customers, to developers. You can come and ask questions. We usually bring experts from the other libraries or from Flutter, and it's a great opportunity to ask directly to the developers.
Oh, definitely. That's really a great source. Yeah, everybody take advantage of that, what he just said, because I know there's going to be times when we'll all have questions, and then you have the experts right there available. That's it, guys. Sorry, I wish we could continue on more. Thank you very much, and I just want to say thank you for being here and taking the time out.
Mike, I do think that we have time for just one last question. It's about backend that we have. Yes, can I use existing AWS backend with Amplify? Just last question. I think we can finish this event.
It's sure, man. Yeah, there you go.
So, sure. Let me talk about that a little bit. So basically, Amplify is built as an abstraction over existing AWS services itself. We kind of, when you deploy it with the CLI or the admin UI, it basically kind of builds everything with AWS best practices in mind. But since it's just an abstraction of existing services, you can use your own backends as well. And we kind of try and make that easier for you using like the Amplify import command, for example. So when we provision your backend, we generate something called the Amplify configuration.dart file in the case of Flutter, similarly like the AWS exports file in JS. So in that case, all you need to do is kind of update the configuration file with your existing resources. You might also have to make some changes on your IAM roles to kind of set up policies as necessary to work with Amplify and ensure best practices are built in. And you can kind of refer to the guides on the docs as well, where we've kind of enabled this to be easier for you through the import command, but also kind of list out how you can do this all manually.
Awesome, man. Anna, you got it. Go.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for being with us. And I think that you already got your certificate for being with us. And it's really an honor for me to have you with us and that you're sharing this information. Hope to see you for our next events as well.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, guys. You were amazing. Seriously, the time out. Yeah.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.